Well, thanks everyone for coming. I'm Lauren Nicholas. You probably all know that, and I'm like deer in headlights with a few people. And as soon as I know your names, it'll be like I know exactly who you are now. I talked to most of you on the phone or email, but yeah, thanks for coming. I'm really pumped to see everybody, and so hopefully you'll have come away with like either this much or this much, depending on what you depending on how you came today. But essentially today, just have a couple of goals and objectives, and just basically, first and foremost, just to kind of give you guys some language to use when to start from. Because I think a lot of people have been carrying around these machines and have not really done much with them, and are feeling a little overwhelmed or maybe underwhelmed, and not sure where to go from here. And so you're at the right spot. And so if you hopefully will just take away a couple of things today. I'm really after just kind of giving you some of the basic tools, and then I think once you're comfortable with certain things like how to get around and not muddle around, then I think I feel more in control, and I think you'll feel like you'll be tuned into what you're listening to. So if you see somebody that's a little bit more adept, say on the Mac, than you are, what they're saying is probably going over your head now, or whatever you're reading about or talking about, once you become comfortable, you begin listening a little bit more attuned because you can understand, you have a frame of reference. So just kind of want to get into that and just kind of start there. Let's see here. So starting with some confidence, I'm just going to give you like what you would see if you bought a Mac at the Mac store, the Apple store. Just doesn't really have much on it except for those two folders that I put on there today. But essentially, it would just be completely blank. And so I want to start with two interface elements that are standard for basically all operating systems, but for the Mac OS. And those are Windows and menus. And those two things you're going to be using all the time, and so it's best to try to get to know them inside out and backwards, Windows and menus. So I see a lot of people get kind of confused as to where they are, and I get that a lot, say over the phone, be like, I don't even know where I am. I don't know what just happened. And so, and once you understand where you are and what just happened, you're cool. You're basically almost all the way there. So that's basically like my huge goal today, just to take away, like, I know where I am. I think I know where I am. I think I get this. And then tomorrow we're going to go into some other some other things to build upon that. But hopefully, like, I can give you some kind of grammar words where you can write them down, and they're very simple things that that make sense to you. So. Number one, this bar at the top, that's what we're going to call a menu, okay, the white bar. And if you notice in the upper left-hand corner, you've got the Apple, and to the right of that, there's a bold-faced menu. And you can kind of see the distinction there, possibly if you have your glasses on. So the other ones, the File, Edit, View, and all of that, are custom to whatever is the bold-faced menu. So the bold-faced menu right now is Finder. And picture Finder as your desktop. So the lowest level of the operating system you can get. So your desktop in Windows or whatnot. So if you ever need to get there, you can just simply find an empty spot on your screen if you have all your icons moved away, and you can just click on that and you should see Finder. So you want to make sure that you're noticing what the bold-faced menu is saying at all times, because that indicates where you are. Okay.
So if it doesn't say Finder, but it says Safari.
That means you're still in Safari, even though you don't see anything. It's still running. Okay. So the menu up there is going to change, and you're going to get different amounts of your menu might shrink or get pretty big depending on what kind of program you're running. So it's customized based on that. Okay. So let's take a look at what's called the dock right here, down here at the bottom. And the dock has numerous applications, and when you got your Mac, you opened it up, it had quite a few things there, but it doesn't have everything. It just has some suggested items, some things that you use every day. Some people like to use it a lot. Some people don't like to use it at all. Some people like to put it on the right side, the left side, and we'll go through some of that. But for right now, I want to just kind of turn your attention to what happens when you actually launch an application. So this is where the Windows portion of the interface elements come into play. So watch what happens when I launch Safari. Hopefully you can see this. So now you've got a window. The Safari window, the application Safari is running. And if you look down here at the bottom, and you may have to look on your screen because it's kind of small, there's a white light down here. And there's a white light on Finder, and that's always going to be on. If the light is off on Finder, you might as well just pull the plug and try to restart. So the Finder always needs to be running. It's the brains. It's the lowest level of what's going on. So that needs to be always on. That's always going to be on. You can't really shut that off. But now Safari is lit up, and it's got that little, with a little white light. Now, if you notice, the menu has changed. So here we have a window here, and our menu at the top is always going to be the menu. But the menu has changed, and the boldface menu says Safari. So if I take my my mouse here and I move, I can grab anywhere in the top of the screen here, anywhere kind of up in here where it's gray. I wouldn't want to grab anywhere like on and a shortcut or something because you risk moving it or something. But so kind of stay where there's nothing, and you can move it around. Remember before I said that you can pick any portion where you can see the desktop and you can click on it? Well, I'm going to go ahead and click right there. Did you notice that the Safari window looks like it's kind of fell to the back and the Finder is now in front? So that's what just happened. So Finder is always back here. You put Safari in front of it, and then you just went back to the Finder, and it kind of takes a back seat. Yeah. Okay. So you guys all see that how it kind of falls behind. So you want to watch for that, and that in the beginning when you're kind of getting going and you're trying to gain some confidence here, just be really aware of the window that falls to the back, and many windows can fall to the back, but also try to figure out what is in the front. Okay, so if I want that window Safari to come to the forefront, you just need to kind of click on it somewhere, and then it kind of came into focus, and I can do that again. I'm in Finder. I can also click on the icon in the dock, and it also comes back to the forefront. So you can do that a couple of different ways. Let's take a look at the window and this portion of the window here. You see 3 dots. You've got the red, the kind of amber, yellow, and you've got the green. If you're a Windows user, if you had ever been a Windows user in your life, you think that that's going to be quit, minimize, right? And maybe maximize. I don't know what that is. It's still there. Yes. So this is really different, a fundamental difference. And the fundamental difference is you're going to close the window. It's a close button. The X is a close button. I do know that there is some sort of third-party utility out there that actually turns that into a quit button, but don't go there. You can if you really get to the point where you're really in control and you still hate it. Who cares? But there is something out there. I just never installed it because I don't know, didn't care. So anyhow, the X, the red button, merely closes the window, does not exit the program. Merely closes the window, does not exit the program. Because let's take a look at what happens. So if you close the Safari window, what's still up there? Safari. Safari's still running. So, and another indication is the light's on. So yeah, that's still running, that's sucking power, sucking battery maybe. Do we really care? Not too much. Maybe when you get a lot of things running, it might start to matter a little bit. But for all intents and purposes, what you really care about is, wait, I did quit out of everything. Why can't I shut down? Wait, you didn't quit out of everything kind of thing. So you want to kind of take a glance down here. You want to take a look up here. If you do want to quit out of a program, there's a couple different ways you can do it. So you can always go to the boldface menu, whatever you're in, and go down to quit. It's pretty much always going to be at the bottom. Okay, so we do that. If you're a key command junkie like me, you can do a command, and command is the one right next to the space bar with the clover leaf. And just kind of the way I work, just to kind of give you an example. So here's my keyboard, and pretty much my left hand is always sitting right here, and my thumb is always hovering over the key command, the command key, and my hand is just large enough to have the tip of my middle finger be on the escape key, and kind of be going back and forth to tab and caps lock and all that stuff. Find what works for you. I studied graphic design when I was in undergrad, and we had like key command quizzes and tests and things, and you had to know. And even when I was in typing class in like 8th grade, it was Apple IIgs, and I don't remember the name of the program. I'm sure you guys could tell me. Somebody could tell me. It was like blue screen. You had to know every single key command. I don't remember, but I just remember being so used to that. So I still find it really useful because I can be really quick and nobody can see me do anything. You just kind of, but you can actually quit out of programs really quickly if you keep your hand there. And what's nice about it is it tells you what the key command is. So next to where it says quit Safari, you see how it says command, little cloverleaf icon, and then a Q? That's going to be your key command. So I'm going to go ahead and do command Q, and you're done. So try that a couple of times, or just write it down, or just make a mental note. Try the command Q thing. If you don't like it, there's other ways to do it, but it's a super easy way to do it.
Are most of those commands logical? Like command Q is quit, command H is hide?
A lot of them are, yep. And if they overlap with something else, it'll be like command shift. Like, oh, command N is usually new window or a new tab. And in like Chrome, if you want to do a new incognito window, it's command shift N, things like that. So sometimes they'll add little modifiers, but yeah, it's pretty much intuitive. And you can change them if you want later. Like you can get into the guts and kind of change things. So, okay. So, so we did Windows.
That'll quit whatever window you're in.
It'll clip whatever the application is that's in front. Yep. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and add another program here. I'm going to add Maps. I'm going to launch Maps. So now boldface menu is Maps. I have Safari still running, Maps running now. You can tell that Safari is still running because you can still see it. But what happens if I go back to Safari and I don't quit, I close the window, and you can see this is the issue, like freeze frame right now. So what I did was I closed Safari's window, and now I want to do something in Maps. I'm on the phone with somebody and they said, oh hey, all you have to do to send me your location is go to the view or go to the Maps menu and do such and such. You're like, I don't see a Maps menu. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not there. Well, you're in Safari. See that? You're actually in Safari. So if you want to get to Maps, either click on the window to make it come to the forefront, or you can click on the icon in the dock. So now those options up there change depending on what you're in. So that is primarily the problem that a lot of you face early on, or maybe right now still, is you have several things open and you're not sure what to do. It's clutter. You have a 13-inch screen that you didn't ask for, or maybe you did. Maybe you love it. Maybe you have 6 monitors at your desk, but you're trying to figure out how you're going to do all your work on this 13-inch monitor. And maybe that goes through I kind of thought that too, but there's a lot of ways to utilize that space that we're going to talk about. Okay, so any questions about closing and quitting and things coming to the forefront, switching between things? Yeah.
So in this category of maps, how extensive is it? How do we learn what's in it or not in it?
Oh, maps?
Yes.
It's pretty much worldly.
Is it?
Yeah, so you can, if you have a smartphone or a GPS in your car, it's about the same thing. And if you all have iPads as well, it's the same It's the same software that's the Maps icon on there.
Okay.
Yeah, and what you can do is say like say I go on my computer and I'm plotting out a trip. Well, I can plot out my trip, driving directions, all that thing, and then I can send it to my iPhone, and I'm running out the door and I know where I'm going, and I don't have to type it in while I'm in the car. So that's cool because it's actually the same app. Yeah, so that's really nice. You can send your location to somebody, you know, ETA or whatever. You can do that in a variety of them. But yeah, this is great. This is a pretty extensive program. If you just take a peek at it when you have a chance. So I'm gonna do my quit of choice. I'm gonna do a Command Q on Maps, and whatever is right behind it is gonna take the center stage. So now I open Stickies, and Stickies is now in front because it was right behind Maps. So now I'm gonna quit Stickies. I'm gonna do another way, quit Stickies, and now Safari is there because Safari was the next in line. I'm going to quit Safari. And now nothing is running except for two things. I'm recording this session, so the video. So that's running, and my PDF viewer. That's it. Okay. Let's talk about applications, where to find them, how to make shortcuts, how to get rid of things that you don't like, how to kind of customize your experience. So your dock is right here. Picture that as analogous to the taskbar in Windows, all the way down. You can make modifications to the taskbar. You may not have, but you may. You can make it small, large, do things. But the dock is kind of nice because you can position it in different ways, and you can it reacts a little bit differently. Just a note with single clicks and double clicks. Anything that's on the dock is a single click. Anything that's on the desktop is a double click. Make sense? Yeah. So if you're just kind of coming down here, you don't need to, it won't hurt anything, but you don't need to waste the extra calorie or whatever. Maybe you do.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, okay, so how do we get to our applications? You may have Macintosh hard drive sitting on your desktop, and it might be because I customized it that way for you, so I didn't throw you off too much. I don't remember because it was in December and I don't remember how I did it. But when you get a Mac out of the box, that's not default. What's default is minus those two folders and a blank space of nothing. So how do you deal with that? Because if I put a flash drive in right now, you won't see it mount on the screen. You have to tell it that you want it to do that. If I put in my USB super drive and I put in a movie or something, it won't pop up on the screen like you would think. You have to tell it that you want it to do that. I enable all those things so that I see them, but let me show you how to do that. So remember the Finder that we were talking about. It's the guts, it's the lowest level. The Finder has its own menus, and you probably are wondering why it has menus. Well, there's some customizations that you can do. So everybody get to their Finder, or you can just watch, and in the boldface Finder menu, there's preferences. So we'll take a look at that. So if you open up Finder Preferences, you're presented with 3 tabs. So you've got General, Tags, Sidebar, and Advanced. So let's take a look at General. Everything is pretty much spelled out. They don't use big words. They really just kind of make it super intuitive and easy to understand. Show these items on desktop. Hard disks. So your Macintosh hard drive will appear there. If you have 2 hard drives, let's say you have like an iMac or a big tower and you can put multiple drives in, then you would see multiple drives. That's what that means. External disks. External disks means flash drives, USB hard drives, things of that nature. And the other 2 are pretty self-explanatory. So if you're on campus and you are wanting to connect up to Auntie or Pawn or whatnot, you should probably have connected servers enabled. Okay, and then DVDs and iPods and things like that too. So I'm going to go ahead and click those. And you can see if I uncheck hard drives, that Macintosh hard drive goes away. Here's my USB hard drive, and I don't know if you can see this, but I totally hacked it and put some Velcro on the side. And so it might be a little bit ghetto, but it's really functional. So you can steal that. I stole it from my godfather. I thought I made fun of him for 2 minutes and then I did it right away. So, okay. So now I'm plugging in my external hard drive. And because I have external disks checked, they're going to show up on there. So I have it partitioned. That's why you see two. Okay. So that may or may not be enabled on yours, but you're looking for check marks. I would suggest at this point to check those, just so you know, so you can see what's going on. This right here, new Finder Windows Show. It's default to say all my files. I find that to be the most confusing thing in the world, and maybe I haven't taken the time to really understand, but maybe I have, and it's just not for me. I generally, not generally, I always know where all my files are, so I don't really need that, and it's basically kind of, it just schluffs everything together, and it's just a different concept. So, but I find for newer users, it's a little bit unfriendly. So I'm going to change that to the root level. My machine's called Sundance. I just named it that. So you can, I just do it to the top, because when I make a new Finder window, it goes to this, and I start to see Mac hard drive and the whole 9 yards. If I don't, you see this. And I think that this is a little bit confusing. So you can take a look at it, but I'm going to change it for the sake of this tutorial to the top level. It looks like a computer. It's like a blue icon. So go ahead and do that. And the only other thing I want to talk about in Finder Preferences is the Advanced tab. The other two we're not going to talk about right now. The Advanced tab, I like to have checked Show All File Name Extensions, because otherwise what happens is somebody emails you a file and you can't open it, or something happens and it just says, you know, cookies. And it looks like a Word icon, but you're not sure. And so you don't know what is it .doc, is it .dot, is it .docx, did something kind of happen? You won't see it. Whereas this way, you'll always see it. It's a great rule of thumb. Check it if it's not checked right now. And the other thing is, when performing a search, search the current folder, because this really drives people nuts, I think, is when you're in a folder and you have a zillion things, like in, I don't know, you're in the applications folder and you're wondering, gosh, do I have Photoshop? And you do this and it searches this Mac. I don't want to search this Mac. I'm in that folder for a reason, because I want to search that folder. There is a use for that, but generally 99% of the time I really want to search that folder. So I usually just check current folder. So if you guys have Macs at home and you wonder, like, you know, my Mac at home, it's so weird because I try to search for something and I can't get anywhere. It just bounces me somewhere else. Check that option, because the default is not search this folder. It's search this Mac. And so it's kind of a, Apple and Google like to do, put everything in a big pot and use search queries. That's kind of how they do it. And it's a great concept, but there's certain instances where it just doesn't work for me. So, and I've seen it not really work for a lot of people straight out of the box. Once you kind of get into it, you might change your mind, but I think it's a little bit strange. All right, so you make your options, you make your changes, and then you can quit out of that window, close that window. The other thing is, in the View menu, still in the Finder, you've got some view options here. If you click on that, and say you just think, gosh, those icons are too darn small, or gosh, those icons are too darn big, you can change that. You can change the grid spacing, the icon spacing. You can sort by, some people like to have it sort by alphabetically, things like that. You can play around with that, but look at the icon size, and if I just kind of slide that slider up, and it'll tell you it's like 96 pixels by 96 pixels. I usually keep mine kind of small, but it's just preference and what you like. And then grid spacing, so you can put them closer together or farther apart. text size, which is the file name or whatever underneath, that you can get larger up to 16, which is helpful, probably, especially for tutorials and things. Show item info will tell you, hey, there's 11 files in there. I don't really care, so I'll turn it off. And then you just close that little window. So that's a window too, little tiny window. Okay, so that's how to just kind of start out seeing things. Let's open our very first of the day, maybe, Finder window. And if you're used to Windows operating system, you think File Explorer, Windows Explorer, something of that nature. You can get a new window lots of different ways. From the Finder, you can go to the File menu, New Finder Window, and you click on that. This just basically brings you to a structure. It's like getting up from your desk and going over to your filing cabinet and taking a look at what's on the drawers that you labeled. That's all that this is doing. It's just giving you a glimpse into what you've got. I'm going to close that again and do it one different way. So if I go to the File menu, right next to New Finder window is that Command N. So if I do a command, the letter N, I get the same behavior. I can also, that's two ways. Third way is by clicking once on the Finder icon in your dock. That's a third way. And finally, a fourth way is by double-clicking on your hard drive on your desktop, or any one of those folders for that matter. We'll get you one of those. So Finder, File, New Window, Finder, Command N, click on the Finder button, the dock item, or double-click on the hard drive. So those are 4 different ways that you can get there.
I lost my dock.
You lost your dock.
I'm in my dock.
Let's talk about that actually. Okay, so everybody get to system preferences for a second, and you can get to system preferences from your dock, except for maybe Maggie won't get there from her dock. So on the upper left-hand corner in the app, you see a little Apple logo. The 4th thing down, you'll see system preferences. So everybody go there. And the 3rd item in the top row is dock. So click on that, and let's just take a look at what might have happened. Okay, so you can do a variety of things to your dock. You can make the size larger, and it'll only get as large as how it can fit. But I can make it smaller. Ooh, that's really small. I can make it small and turn on the magnification. I can make it large and turn on the magnification. I can turn the magnification completely off. I can position it on the left, which is my kind of MO. You can position it on the right. And the one thing that I really like to have enabled, and you may or may not like it, but it's in the dock preferences, it's strange they moved it, but this right here, double click on a Windows title bar to minimize. And so if I did not have that enabled and I went up here and I went double click, nothing would happen. But if I did that and I double clicked, it's basically it's mimicking that. So without having to get a bullseye right onto that minimize yellow button, I can just, anywhere in the top of any window, I can double click and have it minimized. So that's a really nice one. If I have to work on somebody's machine, like if you bring me your machine because it's broken or I have to do something to it and you don't have that enabled, I enable it, and then when I give it back to you, I disable it because I can't do things as quickly because I'm constantly double clicking. So it's kind of funny, you just kind of have these things that you have to have in order to do your work really quickly. So mess around with that if you like it. If you may have a really sensitive finger or like an overactive hand and you don't like that, but something for you to work on. Okay, so does everybody have their dock where they want it? Maggie, you have your dock back from thanks to Kevin? Okay, good. All right, so you can quit out of that and we'll talk about system preferences a little bit more after. Okay, so now I have my dock over here. Okay, back to the Finder menu window. So I'm going to go get a new Finder window. And you can take any window, Finder window or otherwise an application window, and you can resize it in 3 different places. And it's odd that it would be 3 different places and not 4 different places, but it is particularly 3 and not 4. So if you want to resize your window, you notice that if you hover your mouse around to a corner, like the lower right-hand corner, you get a double arrow. And if you pull on that, you can resize the entire size from the right-hand corner, the lower left-hand corner, and the upper left-hand corner. You can also do it on the right side. Oops. The right side, anywhere you get a double arrow. The only place that you would want to avoid for right now in the tutorial, if we have time I'll show you, is the upper right. This double arrow up here is full screen mode, and we'll do it so that you can get out of it because it happens often and you don't know what to do. But there is a great purpose for full screen mode, but avoid the upper right if you want to resize your window. If you forget and you do click on that and it jumps to full screen mode, all you have to do to get out of it is hold your mouse up, wait just like half of a second, but it does take there's a little bit of a delay. So you hold it up there, a little delay, you'll see the blue icon, click to get out of it. So everybody just do that just in case it happens, and it's your escape plan. And then I'll show you how it can be super awesome for you as far as your workflow is concerned. But
you can escape too, though, right?
You can escape. Yep.
Explain what you mean by hitting mouse. I catch that.
Oh, gotcha. So sometimes if you're looking to resize a window, and let's say if I go to the upper left and I get that double arrow, well, if I assume that the double arrow is going to be there and I click on it right there, it'll jump into full screen mode.
No, I'm talking about the mouse movements.
Oh, gotcha. So if you don't know the key command escape to get out of that, what you want to do is see how the menu at the top is disappeared. It's actually totally full screen mode. Well, the menu's there, it's just hidden. So if you take your mouse and you hover up, it'll take a second, but it's like a shave. It comes right back down. And then you can click on it once to get out of that. So that's a really nice thing to know how to get out of, because otherwise it's a little frustrating, especially if you're trying to do something or you're on the phone with somebody and you're just like, I don't have any idea. So, okay, so we're getting there. Okay, so resizing windows and all that stuff. When you have the file, any Finder window open, you get more options in the view menu than we had when we didn't have it, when it didn't appear. So I'm going to close that. See, the view menu is pretty sparse. They're all grayed out. Well, the second we have a Finder window, we get a lot of different options. And this is really important because it gives you more control over your Finder window. So take a look at what appeared. In the middle section where it says show tab bar, show path bar, show status bar, I like number 1, show path bar. At the bottom, it basically will give you a diagram of where you are. Because if you're unsure as to where that file lives, it'll say, well, it lives on MME blah 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 01, name of your computer, users, documents, da 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 da, or anti, pubrel, da 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 da. Okay, and if that's not clicked to show, you're kind of scrambling to wonder where the heck it is. So it's a map, gives you kind of a menu map or like a structure. So I like to have that enabled. If it's not already, it's just a simple toggle. So if it's on, it'll say hide. If it's off, it'll say show. Status bar. Status bar just gives you another little gray area down here, and it'll just give you a little bit of information depending on where you are, 6 items, things like that. Okay, But that's really important is if you don't do anything else, do show path bar. Tab bar. Tab bar is really important. It's a new feature in Mavericks, and all of you are running Mavericks, which is OS 10.9. Okay, so they just call it Mavericks. 10.8 didn't have that. The tab bar is it's exactly similar to the way you use tabs in a browser, and you can have multiple things open if you knew that. Okay, so in order to let's make a couple of different tabs, and tabs are really useful because you don't have to have like a bunch of different windows open at the same time. Say you want to copy things from location to location, you can do that pretty simply. So I'm going to go and I'm going to close this, and I'm going to open, there's a file on my desktop called Files, and I just put a few files on there. So I've got some Word documents in here, and I'm going to mess around with some tabs, okay? So you can do a couple of things. To make a tab, there's a little plus sign in the right-hand corner, and you can click that, and it gives you a different tab. So I can flip-flop back and forth between this file and say, documents. Okay, so now I'm in documents, and you notice when I click documents on the left-hand side, that's just a little shortcut, but you can click on that. Look at the path bar. Macintosh hard drive, users folder, my home folder called test, and documents. That's where I am. And if I click on that files file, I called the files file, look where I am. Macintosh hard drive, users, test, desktop, files. That's where I am. That's where it lives. So it would be similar, like getting up on your desk and going to your filing cabinet, being like, okay, drawer number 3, file folder 6, folder 2, things like that. So picture it like that. Okay, so what can I do here? Well, I can take, here's this Apple file, and this, I don't want it in files. I want it in documents, so I'm going to move it. I'm just going to take it, click, drag, and drop it. There it is. I just moved it from that folder to this folder by using Finder tabs. I can move it back by doing that. I can make as many folder tabs as I want, as many as that can fit. If you want to close a Finder tab, you hover your mouse over on the little file on the tab, but on the left-hand side, and once you hover over in that spot, an X appears and you can click it. Another way to make a tab is to go to the File menu, New Tab, or Command-T. Just made 2 tabs. To close those, you can also do a key command, and the general key command for closing something is Command W, and you can do that in a browser and in anything that has tabs, so Command W will close it. It's kind of like Windows users Alt F4 would close things, close files. So you can do that, or you can just simply click on the X. Okay, so what's the difference between moving, copying files? Okay, if you have 2 local files, so folder A, folder B, and they're sitting on your drive, okay, and they're on your actual computer, you know what I mean, right? Like on your hard drive, not on a disk, not on a USB, not on a server, on your hard drive. If you try to take something and pull it over to another space, it's going to by default move it. Does that make sense? So if you're going from hard drive to hard drive, so if I take a piece of paper and move it on from this side of my desk to here, I'm moving it by default, unless I invoke another key command or if I tell it to copy or duplicate or something. But by default, if I'm going from my desktop, my hard drive area, to or from external media, say a server, a USB drive, a disk, it's always going to copy by default. So you can't just like move it. It's going to copy because it knows, hey, we're dealing with two different spaces here. I don't think that they want to move it. However, you can move it if you want to. Does that make sense? And I'll show you what I mean. But it's important to know that by default, if you're moving something from a folder or you're on your hard drive to another place on your hard drive, it's going to move it, not copy it. If you want to copy it, you're going to need, because let's say you have like an archive folder and you're like, this isn't working copy, but I want to kind of put these over here, or I want to do that. You have to hold down the Option key. And I think a number of you probably have kind of gotten that a little bit, because it's something that we talk about, like if I'm walking you through something or somebody's walking you through something, holding down the Option key, and that's the one to the left, 2 buttons left to the space bar, and there's another one too on the right side. So it says Alt on it as well, so Option. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to take Apple, and I want Apple to be in the Files folder, but I also want it to be in Documents. I want it to be in both places. So I'm going to hold down the Option key, keep it held down, and now I'm going to drag it over. If you notice, there's a green plus sign now. See that green plus sign? I'm taking the Option key off, and if I take it off, that green plus sign goes away. But now it's moved over and copied into the Documents folder. So everybody I'm sure you have some sort of something on your desktop that you can practice with. Just copy it to another location by using your Option key. So Finder tabs, moving, copying. Well, where are all my files? What is this little home folder? What is Macintosh hard drive? What if I need to get to pawn? What if I need to do this or that? Where are my documents? That's like the biggest fear. I don't know where they are. Well, couple of things to just keep in mind, and then you'll know exactly where they are. So when you open a Finder window, whichever way you do it, whatever is open can always be changed. You're just viewing it in a different, from a different perspective. So all these things here on the left are just shortcuts, essentially. And you can move those around. We can deal with that later. But they're just some suggestions that Apple has for you. So applications. If you click on applications, you get the applications directory. But look, where it really is, you'd have to actually go into Macintosh hard drive and then go into the applications folder. So there's 2 ways to do it. You could go Macintosh hard drive, applications, and see them. Or say you had any old window open and you just clicked on that, it brought you straight to that in one click rather than like 2. So they're just shortcuts, like on the Windows side. If you go to the Windows menu and you click, you can make little shortcuts up there, or you can make items down in your taskbar. Okay, there's about 4 different areas on this sidebar. This is called the sidebar. Favorites is at the top, devices, shared, and tags. If you hover your mouse over where it says favorites, what will happen is it'll say hide. And if you click on hide, it'll collapse. And on the flip side, if you don't see anything and you hover your icon up there, you'll see show. And then it'll expand. So if you don't see what you think you need to see, it might just be collapsed, and you just might need to expand it. So same goes for the devices spot here. If you know you mounted pawn but you can't find it, it might just be collapsed. Or you put that hard drive in there, like, what's mine called? Sundance Time Machine or Backup or whatever. So there it is, Backup. But if I click hide, I can't see it in my Finder window. Yeah, and then you can also see a little bit more of this because there's this divider line, and if you hover your mouse over in between the divider line, here too, you get like a double arrow with a line through it, and once you get that, you can pull and you can see more. Okay. if everybody goes where it says devices and go to the root level, your devices will be MME, whatever, name of your machine. If you go there, you'll see everything that's sitting on your desk, or your essentially your Finder. So if you have anything plugged in, you'll see remote disk, which is just something that probably you won't use, but if like somebody else across the room has like a CD drive or something and you want to use it, you can. Click on Macintosh hard drive, and then go to users, and then find your home directory, the little icon with the house. So we're going to just look at my map here. So your devices, your little computer, Macintosh hard drive, users, and then your little home folder, and it'll be the same name as your ME. I just want to show you this because it starts to make a little bit of sense after it confuses you. If you look what's at the contents of what's actually inside your home folder, and if you don't see exactly what I'm seeing, it's probably because your view is not the same. If you go up here, there's icon view, there's list view, and then there's column view. Sorry about that. I should have said that from the get-go. You're probably sitting there with icons. Does everybody have a column view there? And if you didn't, if you went this way, you just wouldn't see. You'd have to drill down. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go from here to Macintosh hard drive to users to my home folder. And what's inside that home folder is exactly what you see on the sidebar. So you see a desktop folder, a documents folder, a downloads, a music, a movies, a pictures, and a public. That is just what Apple gives you in that home folder. If somebody else were to log into your laptop, and like let's say I logged into it, I would get a whole different desktop. I could customize things. I would get a different home folder. It would be in that location. But the user that's logged in, you can see your files. They can't see yours. You can't see theirs. This is your only machine. You don't have anybody logged into it. But this is where it is. This is not backed up unless you back it up. This is local, right? This is on your local hard drive. So this is stuff like if you keep something in your documents folder, it's only going to be on here. If you use Dropbox or Google Drive, this is where Google Drive and Dropbox is actually going to put a folder in there. So what you can do is, you see on the left-hand side up there, there's a little home folder. Mine says test because the user's name is test. You click on that, it just jumps you to where we just took the long road to get to. Okay, go into your system preferences one more time. And let's take a look at your trackpad. When you have some time, test this out in the click on trackpad, and there's 3 different tabs across the top, and they're all animated. So what you want to do is just take a look at each one, because if you click on each one, it'll tell you what it does. It'll actually show you what it does. And this helps because I think probably part of some of the confusion also is that you don't realize that you can, that whole area of the mouse pad is gesture enabled, and there's all these different gestures that you can customize, and it's a sensitive area. And if something's set up unbeknownst to you and you click on it, something might go away and you don't know what you did. So, the one thing is, so the whole trackpad, it doesn't have 2 buttons anymore like it used to. It used to have that button up here and then this space. It's just one single button that you can depress, and you probably figured that out because you're all clicking. Well, you don't necessarily have to click. You may have only heard me click a couple of times when I had to click and drag, but really, I always enable this, tap to click. So another thing that if you give me your laptop and I have to work on it and you don't have tap to click enable, I always do that because it's too noisy for me, and and it's too many things to do. So anyway, tap to click. Again, you may hate this, but you may not. You may really like it. Okay, so let's say I want to double click on Macintosh hard drive. I can double tap, not double click. I can literally do that and you don't hear anything. Tap, tap. or tap, tap. Otherwise, you would do this, right? Not good, not bad, just something you can customize. Tap to click.
Secondary click.
There's a secondary click. Secondary click is a right click. Okay, if you have an external mouse that has wires or like a Logitech mouse or something that has two buttons, it's, the simulated right click. If you don't have one of those, you hold the control key down on a Mac. So it's right click, control click. But the secondary click, if you check that box, you can simulate a right click by tapping once with two fingers. So what you can do, you can show that by getting over to your Finder, and I'm going to create a new file folder on the fly by simulating a right click. I take my two fingers and I tap, and I get a little window. And I can just say new folder, like that. So that has to be enabled. Secondary click, and you can see from the video, tap, like that. And then single click to make it go away. If you go over to scroll and zoom, this one right here is interesting because Apple turns it on by default and they call it natural. And it's natural on the iPad, I think, and on the iPhone, but it is kind of backwards to what was previous. So I'm talking if you're starting to scroll. Kevin, do you do natural or unnatural? You do natural. You do natural? How long did it take you to switch? Like right away?
Pretty quick, yeah.
Pretty quick? You really like it now?
Yeah, I like it better.
That's cool.
So when your fingers go up, the screen goes up.
Goes up. Yeah. Whereas I'm like used to the opposite, which is odd, but I'm really used to it on the iOS, so it's strange. But anyway, yeah, so you can mess around with that. Turn it on, turn it off. See what feels natural to you. Let's just say that. Go into the more gestures. And this is something that we're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but something we're going to talk to in great detail tomorrow. And this is something called mission control. And remember I talked to you a little bit about the full screen apps. I'm going to show you really quick a gesture that I have that gets me to be able to do that, and that, and that, and say I want to open my web browser in screen number 1. I have 4 different monitors in this 13-inch right here. So I'm reading the New York Times, and now I'm going to go and give my presentation, and now I'm going to go and customize my trackpad. And you can have your email just live in one whole monitor all by itself. You can have your your Word documents just live in another one. You could have whatever you use to work on, like let's say for research you use EndNote or something, unless you need that in a whole different space, or you're using Photoshop because you're editing a photo. You can full screen that, and you can put that in one space. You can have as many, up to, I forget how many. You can have a lot. You can have quite a few, and they just keep on going, and it just, and they make it very easy for you to get back and forth. So you don't necessarily need physically 4 or 5 monitors. You have virtually 4 or 5 monitors, and then some. So we'll be really detailing that tomorrow because it's really exciting, and it's a huge part of the way I work and a lot of other people work. It's like the bread and butter of the machine, I think, of the OS. It really helps you to get to know what you're doing, and it helps you feel in control because you don't feel like everything's stacked everywhere. It doesn't feel like it's like a mess. Thanks for coming, everybody. Hope to see you guys tomorrow. If not, you can visit me in cyberspace, or what else? Oh, here. What do I have? So here's my contact info. You can find me on Google+. When you get there, you can find me on Hangouts. You can chat with me. You can call me. You can follow at Moravian EdTech or at Lauren Nicholas.